we are going to identify the 8 red flags that you deal with all the time, but we're going to try to give you some help to deal with those. Here we go. All right, I'm so excited for this episode. We thought of it just a handful of weeks ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, when I think about the value that we can give. So if you don't know, I built social teams at EA Sports and Universal Parks for 18 years, built teams, infrastructure, convinced people to give me resources, which I know is a hot topic, some of the topic we'll talk about today. And I wanted to kind of curate a list of the 8 challenges. Some we're seeing as we work with brands today, and some that I dealt with, and really bring that to you and hopefully in some way validate some of your feelings and emotions, that you're not alone out there, and in some ways help you get through some of those challenges. Now, the first thing I got to say is this topic, the headline, the whole thing's got to be a little triggering. I promise you, we're going to try to not make it so negative that it feels uncomfortable, that it feels awkward, because these things are real. You might be in the middle of some of these, but we hope that we can find some solutions as we get into it. And so, yeah, we're pumped to go through it. So the first one, they expect you to do more and be best with less people and less budget. There's already people on the other side of the camera that are saying amen. And like, this might be the biggest problem going on in brand social today. But we see it all the time. I mean, I have client meetings. We're doing annual planning earlier this week. It's not just that you have no resources or no budget or little resources or little budget. The problem is the expectation that they have of you to be best in class. I remember there was a time at Universal where I might have told this story before, but I sat in front of a big group and I presented out our entire plan. And I had an org structure, always have an org structure. And someone asked me, how much of this gets done if we can't invest in your team? And I said, none of it. Pack it up. Go home. Stop doing social. Stop doing organic. Like, if you're not invested in it, then we can't do it. And so if you're at a brand that right now is asking you to do more for less, and it's getting to the point where it's extreme, it's a red flag. You got to kind of watch out and be careful about it. So, the cause of this is potentially the business. Potentially you haven't built a strategy, you haven't convinced anybody. And so the solution is like pretty simple. You've got to build a strategy and a plan and an operating model. You got to sell it in. You got to get buy-in. You got to outline what the resourcing would be. Look, at the end of the day, all they can do is say no. But the best thing that you can do to help your career is map out the roadmap and get them to believe in you. If you're the leader or if you're the team, believe in the team and build credibility with the team. And so it's a tough one. It's a red flag, but it's one you can get through. But at the end of the day, social ain't free. People think social's free. It's not free. Number 2, you're at a legacy company with an old school performance-driven mindset that fundamentally doesn't either value or understand social. I've been in companies like this before, and I've fought my way through this one. So this one you can get through. It does take some time. And I'll always tell you, like, look, if you're looking to go to a brand, go to one that believes in social. Go to one where the wind is beneath your wings and you can really build momentum. If you go to a company that doesn't value or undervalues or just doesn't really get it, it's going to be hard, not just at the leadership level or at the boss level, but you're going to spend so much time educating, walking around your organization, trying to convince people. You're going to have to define things like, what does social first mean? We're going to talk about creative here in a second, but this is a really, really big one. And if I was looking for a brand to go to, this is a red flag that would literally like full stop for me. I've been at brands before where this was such an uphill battle, and I spent over a decade trying to do it. And we moved a long ways, but at the end of the day, it was so hard to convince all the people. And then you've got reorgs and change out and leadership change out, and whole new people have to come in that you got to convince and build rapport with and talk to them about the importance of social and storytelling. And just frankly, man, it gets tiring. And so like, this is one that like you can get through, but this is a long haul to get through. And so the idea of working for a legacy company or just one that is just focused more on performance and doesn't really understand the value of social, the truth is they probably don't understand the value of loyalty. They probably don't understand the value of their audience. And that's sadly just where we are. There's a lot of brands and businesses that exist in a, what is right in front of my face, or how are we going to hit sales tomorrow? And what we do in our environments is we're thinking about brand. We're thinking about loyalty. We're thinking about long-term audience building. And if the place doesn't believe in that, it's going to be an uphill battle. Number 3, social is organized poorly or in the wrong department. Oh man, have I been in this before, right? Like you join a team, you're excited, you got a new job, whether you're a manager, senior manager, director, and you come in. By the way, always ask this question: where is social organized in the whole organization? And always ask, what department is that in? How close is it to your CMO? That's just a hot tip that wasn't on the paper, but like that's so important. minute. But when I first joined one company, I was in a digital communications group that was kind of PR led. Then I went to another group that was full PR team, and I had some really good leaders in there, and then I had a really not great leader in there that just didn't understand social and honestly just wanted to make it an extension of PR. If social is not at a very top line level, it will just become the mechanism for whatever that department is. So if it's a digital marketing performance-driven group, social would just become a channel that they wanted to do more digital marketing, more performance, more transactions, more sales. If it's PR, they're going to look into extending out the message of their public relations and things like that, which, by the way, like, I understand all organizations are built differently. Social sometimes is going to exist within different departments. But I remember a time where a new CMO came in when I was at Universal, and there was some changeover, right? There's reorgs, and some of you guys are in it now or went through one this year. And I remember pitching that social and content and influencer should be at like the level that reports directly to the CMO. For some people, they thought that was insane. I still today believe that is the right thing for large brands. You need a VP that's running all of that. They need to have the ownership and the ability to deliver on what that is. And they need to be at the peer level with PR, with digital marketing, with brand. And so like that's a hot sports opinion. I come from sports radio, so if you ever hear me say hot sports opinion, it just means hot opinion. It's a joke that I do with my brother. But that's a hot sports opinion in a lot of worlds, that social should be at that level. But again, if you're a brand that's invested and believes in the power of earned media, owned media, audience building, then you put social at that level. If you don't, which is the last bullet, you put it down below. All right, so the solution for this, this is one that actually you can get through. If you have a good plan and great reasoning, you can find a way to, again, at the right level, reposition where social belongs to be successful. At the end of the day, I can't tell you where it should be organized in your company. But what I can tell you is that you'll get in and you'll figure out where can social be the most successful. And that's what you got to push towards. Number 4. Oh, this one's going to cut deep. Brittany, this one's going to hurt people. It just is. Social is micromanaged. That's a very broad one. So let's kind of go deep a little bit. No freedom to be creative. No freedom to test, no freedom to fail, no freedom to learn, no freedom to evolve. There's this almost expectation to like get in, get it started, and make it successful. So here's some things that might happen. Your boss only reaches out whenever something goes bad, right? Like they're not into social, but something went bad, you tweeted something, you misspelled something, whatever, we're gonna make mistakes, and they reach out. Like that's the worst, right? Your boss comes to you and says, oh man, this is gonna cut deep. We need to go more viral. Oh, like we need to go more viral. We've heard that in the past 2 months from a very large brand. And look, who doesn't want to go viral, boss man? What do you think we're doing over here? We're taking swings. We got a whole plan. We got a strategy. Calm down. Go back to your ivory tower. Don't say that to your boss. I can say that, but you don't say that. Let's see another one. Your boss brings you social ideas. Oh, my daughter showed me this TikTok and I've got an idea. You got to see this. Oh, we should totally do this. Like that's a red flag. Like they don't trust you creatively and they're crazy. So like be on the lookout for bosses like that. Oh, this is an awesome one. They ask you to support a campaign that social was never involved in from the start. I'm going to start doing this. Look. Like, what are you doing? Like, that happens all the time. And usually it's because they want to take their ad that no one's watching and put it on the YouTube channel that everyone's going to ignore and skip just because they're treating YouTube like a dumping ground. Man, I'm fired up today, Britt. This is fire. I think this is Marmal's here, like Steven's here, like the headphones are off for the first time. Maybe that's what's causing it, but something is creating, maybe it's just the energy of all this negativity. I don't know. The social team is micromanaged. So here's what you got to do. You got to build trust. You got to build a plan. You got to build a strategy. You got to get quick wins. And man, this is tiring. You got to educate on social. You just have to. You got to become the expert. The way for them to stop giving you ideas is position yourself as the expert. Report out more. Too many cooks in the kitchen. And I'm gonna kind of connect this with lots of approvals, multiple teams. Some of you guys are out there and you're like, oh, we have 3 people on our social team. That's not a problem. We can move quick. We don't have the resources, the budget, but we don't have all that problem. But man, I'm telling you, there's others of you out there that are listening that you've got to write a brief to go over to creative team to get creative for your social channel. And by the way, and we're going to talk about this in a second, that creative team doesn't know how to create for social. That's a real problem. You're going to have multiple approval process. You've got this whole strategy about being reactive and culturally relevant, but you got like 10 steps to get something approved. It might even be within your social team. Hopefully you're not doing that, but a lot of steps in approval. You've created infrastructure in your company to slow you down. That's just mind-numbing. And I fought this a lot, and we had a lot of wins. But it took a ton of alignment discussions. You do this, we do this. Is this okay if we do this? At the end of the day, the solution for this has got to be you have to identify why this is causing problems to your team and how that is impacting the business. When you do that, it will unlock something in leadership to go, okay, we got to let go. Look, the reason why they do this is because you're in an organization that's controlling, and marketing teams are historically controlling. And so what you've got to do is you've got to understand, that that's what it is. It's a controlling organization. They kind of hold information. They kind of create fear with tactics and pressure. But man, the social team can't exist in that world. And so what you've got to do is over time showcase the impacts. A lot of what you do at the leadership level is you build a lot of business cases. And so you build a business case about, look, when we go through these 12 steps or these 27 steps, it takes 27 weeks. If we went through these 3 steps, it would take 2 weeks. And what that could do for our business from an impression standpoint, amount of content we're putting out, connection to our audience, it would be so valuable. So too many cooks in the kitchen, that's a tough one. You're not allowed to produce your own creative within the social team. This is a hard one. This is one that I've been through. I've seen done poorly. I've seen done well. When I first got to Universal, there was just a way that marketing was done, right? There was a brand team. There was a PR team. There was a social team, but it was within PR. And if you wanted to get an asset created, you wrote up a brief. You had it approved. And by the way, this is not like independent for Universal. This is many places. Like, this is no shot at Universal. And by the way, this is like 15 years ago, Universal. This is not today. We could not go in the theme park, take a photo with our phone, and post it to Instagram. Those were wild times. What do we have to do? Well, we had to create some business cases. Social's awesome and fun, but there's a non-sexy side of it that gives you permission to do social well. And that's what this is all about. You got to do some work to get permission to do social well. And so we had to create business cases about why we need to be able to do this. And today, the team can fly around the park and take a lot of photos. Some of the people on that team today, they're awesome. Like, they don't even know the rules we dealt with back in the day. And it's fine. Like, there was nothing wrong with those rules. Like, the world was changing and brands were having to give up control of their brand. Now there's 1 million cameras in the parks, and at every brand that you work for, you sit in, and you don't control your brand anymore like the internet does. They can post a photo, they can talk about your brand. And so you got to build a case to have creative either sit within your team or have a dedicated creative team that's very nimble. Because the other side of things, it's not just the process, it's having creative people that understand social. When we were building Maverick, Steven's in the room, one of our videographer creators. Like, I remember talking to Steven in our first interview, and I've talked to all these guys about the importance of social first storytelling. And if you don't get it, like, it's no fault of your own. It's fine. Like, you want to go make a film, you want to be an artist, like, that's fine. For social to work, it's got to be connected to the audience, connected to culture, and something that travels well on digital. And there's just a lot of best practices that we're not going to go in today. But whether it's hooks or sound effects or how you tell stories in digital, it's so important. And so when I had a social media manager that went over to work with an art director, like, the whole thing fell apart. It just broke in half. Like, it just didn't work. And as we transitioned, and we, at least on that team, built out some really great social verse teams, and I love what we're doing here at Maverick. Like, it makes such a difference because it creates a speed, it creates culture, right? You're all on the same page. And so I fight really hard for either to have dedicated social creative people within creative teams, or dedicated creative within that, like, sits inside and underneath the social team. I've had both. One is better than the other. You can guess which one that is. So solutions. So how do you do this? Man, I've succeeded and failed at this. Like, it's been hard, but you got to build the business case and showcase the value. The challenge in here is you're going to have old school org structures. You're going to have controlling leadership. And to be honest, you're just going to have some, like, really controlling creative people. I don't know how to say it. They have a certain level of standard and a certain way that they do things, and things have to be briefed, and things have to have art directors, and things have to have all the sorts of things, and that's fine. Like, you're shooting a $100 million TV commercial, but we're trying to create content at scale, and that's just an older mentality that we had to squash, and we are kind of creating a new mentality here at Maverick, so that's kind of fun. All right, a couple more here. Stay with me, because these last two are so good, and one of them is going to jump outside of your day-to-day work and kind of hit you between the eyes with, like, what you want to do personally. The social team isn't given time. Like, that sounds so simple, but it's really, really important. You're not given time to learn the business. You're not given time to create a strategy. You're not given time to get some wins under your belt, to learn, to test. Social is hard. understanding your audience is hard. What do they like? What do they not like? Understanding the algorithms, all the channels. Like, I'm not trying to act like doing social for a major brand is trimming trees. I've trimmed trees. It sucks. But it is difficult, and you need to give your team time to be successful. I think about the NFL, right? Like, you got 6 games sometimes in the NFL as a head coach, and they'll fire you. And it's like, well, who can get something done in 6 games or 1 year or 2 years? It took a year for me to understand the travel business. Just to understand it, much less build a strategy and a plan. So we've got to give our teams time. Now, I don't mean if you've got under-talented people that don't know how to build a strategy to give them time. But if you've got the right people in place, you got to give them time. Map out a plan. One way you can do this is to map out a plan and create expectations of how long this is going to take. We're going to learn and we're going to grow. We do that all the time with our clients. We're kind of like, hey, we're going to do this. This part's going to take 2 months. And in 6 months from now, we're going to look a lot different than we do today. But we got to grow together because it's audience building. It's not just like taking a message, putting on an ad, putting $100 million of media behind it and just pushing it out and hoping and praying. This is nuanced audience building. All right, the last one, and I hope this one speaks to the new world of social media managers. Brittany, our producer's in the room, and she's a content creator on her own, independently, other than Maverick. And I love that. So the problem is, if your company doesn't support your creative efforts outside of work, that's a red flag, man. And look, I own a company now, and so I want my people to be fully invested in what they're doing from 9 to 5-ish, right? Like, we work kind of pretty flexible, so it's not super hard and fast. But I left Universal to pursue purpose and passion, to build something I wanted to build, and to put my fingerprint on the world. How could I believe in that and then not believe and trust my team to do a good job well and to also be able to do something on the side? Now, look, if they're giving away confidential information, that's like a no. We can't do that. If it's happening during work and impacting work or impacting client or impacting their ability to do their jobs, like, that's a different story. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that are on the other side of this lens that love to create, and they like to do it in their free time, and they want to be funny on LinkedIn, and they want to build an audience, and they've had their brands or their business come to them and say, you need to stop doing that. And look, you're in a fear-led organization. It's a real red flag. It doesn't mean you got to jump and quit, but it does mean you got to be aware. You got to be aware of that. If they're going to hold you back from that, they're going to hold you back in a lot of ways. I heard somebody say, how would we put someone in front of this was not Universal, but it was a brand one time. How can we put our best talent in front of cameras and have them talk about us? People might see them and they might hire them. How horrible is that? What do you want to jail them to their table and let no one know that people know they work at your company? LinkedIn's really easy to search. Celebrate them, put them on stages, let them go be creators. Because guess what? They're going to learn so much more being a creator than they ever do inside your business. And guess who gets the benefit? The business gets the benefit. I had a lot to get off my chest apparently today, but look, I know these are red flags. These are not reasons to not take a job somewhere. These are not reasons to quit your job. And hopefully you found a lot of solutions in there. At the end of the day, most of these things ladder up to, is it the right place? Do they believe in social and content and storytelling? And can you build trust? If you can build trust and show them that you've got a plan, I promise you, I've been in legacy companies that had some of these challenges, and we were tremendously successful. It took a little longer than we thought it would, but tremendously successful. And along the way, if you think about this as a core benefit of what you want in your career, which I think it should be, along the way, I was able to teach so many smart people about social. And guess what else? I was able to learn from so many smart people that didn't get social. So the companies that don't invest like you wish they would, it doesn't mean there's not an opportunity for you to learn and for you. I know so much about email marketing, personalization, data and analytics, brand building, team leadership, management that I would have never learned had I not worked for some of these companies. But the red flags still remain, man, and hopefully there's some stuff that you can learn from there. So here's the thing. This is what we always ask. Share this with your team. Share this with your boss. This would might, I don't know if this is the best one to share with your boss, but do it. Who cares? Screw it. I'm here to say the thing that you can't say because you might get fired. But share it with your boss, because our goal is to help people that are sitting in your seats. And every time we come on here, we hope that we're bringing value to you. So fun episode. We enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.